What's going on, guys? It's Brandon back here today with my second division prediction video. Today we'll be doing the Pacific Division. I'll be debating whether or not I do the Central or Metropolitan later today, but we'll see. So I'm wearing my Vegas hat and my Jonathan Marchessault Vegas jersey. I'll stand up so see right there. Got Marchessault on the back. So that pretty much tells you who I think is going to win the division, but we'll get to that. So in the Pacific Division, by far, I would say the worst division in the league. I think it's pretty easy to safe, just like kind of like the Atlantic, who's going to come last, and that, without question, to me, is the Anaheim Ducks. Still in prime rebuilding, maybe make a step make a step forward this year, surprise some people with their youth. Getzlaf being there to mentor the kids, Zegras, and all the other young ones that are coming in there. That's really all I really have to say about Anaheim. They're kind of just prime rebuilding. They're going to be bad. That's kind of how rebuilding goes. And yeah, we'll move on to the next team, which I think is going to be San Jose. San Jose has the experience, and they have a bit more just pizzazz. Even though they're not a great team anymore, they have the players who have been there who can play that are better than the young players that Anaheim has right now, because they've been there, they have the experience, they know how to play, and they're not like the youthful Ducks who are just getting accustomed, and they're also trying not to rebuild, so they're trying to be competitive as well, which is opposite of what Anaheim is doing. What San Jose really, I think, needs to do is start a rebuild with that Carlson contract, with that Burns contract, several other questionable contracts on that team. It's going to be hard to do a full-fledged rebuild until, I'd say, about 5 years down the road from now, because some of those contracts are just horrible. Carlson's $11.5 million per year, I think it is. What were they even thinking, since he wasn't even the player he once was, even close to the player he once was. But yeah, so I think San Jose and Anaheim are going to be a close area for the bottom of the division. And this is where it gets interesting for me. It gets a little hard to distinguish, but I think next is going to be the LA Kings. They definitely are a better team. Do not get me wrong. They are a better team, but I just don't think they are better than anything else in the division. The LA Kings, they can finish as high as third. They can go as low as sixth, I think. And I'm going to put them at sixth for now, because I think there are teams better than them in the division that are going to work better, and teams that can have bounce-back seasons, like Vancouver, like a Calgary. But we'll see. And next up we have, speaking of Calgary. Realize I don't have a Seattle magnet. That's coming soon, hopefully. And so Calgary, I think they're out of the playoffs. I think this division has been upgrading, and they've been just not going with it. And they have good Johnny Gaudreau, they have Sean Monahan, they lose Giordano to Seattle, they have Matt Tkachuk. This team has pieces that should be bringing it to playoffs, but for whatever reason, it's just not clicking, it's not going together, and they're having issues. They didn't make the playoffs last year in a relatively easy Canadian division, in which I thought they were going to make the playoffs. But after their regular season success in 2019, where they won the West, and their first round upset over Colorado upset them, it's kind of just been downhill. Along with that Dallas series, where although they beat Winnipeg off injury, and then they should have beat Dallas, but they just couldn't close it out. They choke away leads. But this year, I just think it's going to be rebuilding time soon in Calgary, which is unfortunate because they just really haven't had this core for that long of a time. When they made the playoffs in 2015, Gaudreau and Monahan, some of those guys are still coming in. And then 2017 rolls around, they're swept in the first round, and then 2019 you think, okay, there's hope, but now it's just flushed all down. It's kind of bad, horrible to watch in Calgary. I'd argue it's worse than some of the other teams. I'd say it's worse than Anaheim. I'd say it's worse than... Okay, that's probably about it. It's better than San Jose, but if Calgary doesn't bounce back this year, there's going to be some serious issues going on in their management core that are probably going to shake things up next year if they don't make the playoffs. In fourth, And Vancouver. Vancouver will have a bounce back year, I'm pretty sure, as long as they sign Pettersson and Hughes. The fact that Pettersson and Hughes are not signed yet, because they literally have no money to do so, is a big problem. I doubt they will be able to sign both of them unless something gives in. I'm not sure what it will be, but something will have to give in to get Pettersson and Hughes. I'm not sure why no one's offer sheeted Pettersson at all. That would have been a smart decision for teams with cap space. And yeah, that's really all I have to say on Vancouver. They acquire Ekman Larson. They acquire Garland. Garland is the best part of that deal. And they lose Louis Eriksson, Jay Beagle, Antoine Roussel, and give up a first, second, and I think 7th round pick to do so. So this team gets rid of all their bad contracts, brings in a new one, and who knows what is going to... Vancouver, to me, is the mystery team of this division. I don't know what they are going to do. They could be as low as 7th, or could be as high as 3rd, in my opinion. Forget that. They could be as low as 7th and high as 1st, in my opinion. I have no clue how this team is going to pan out right now because of how Pettersson and Hughes are not signed. And then, if Besser keeps producing, that should be fine, but question is who will... I just don't know who they're going to sign. If they have to choose one. They're going to choose Pettersson or Hughes. And I doubt either of them are willing to take pay cuts, as they have only like $10 million in cap space left, and both of those are probably worth more than $5 million a year. But we'll see what happens on that front. And next is where I think a lot of people are overlooking this team and say they're going to be doing a lot worse. And I've seen some say this is the worst expansion team since the Ottawa Senators. And there it is. I do think Seattle will make the playoffs this year. This team is defense and goaltending. On offense, they have Schwartz, Wenberg, Eberle, and that's kind of about it, their first line. But with if Beniers is not going to play this year, I think it's a good idea. If he plays next year, that could be this team's like first superstar. If Beniers blossoms right out of the gate, and even with that, I still think this team's defensive mindset, and they have great goaltending. They have Grubauer, who, although he may have played in Colorado and gotten a lot of help from that team, I still think he's a good goaltender, and I think he can do some good things, as well as they have Driedger in net as a backup, so that's a pretty good tandem right there. And then defense, you got Giordano, you got Alexiak, you got names, please come to me, you got Hayden Fleury, who's a shutdown guy. You have Carson Soucy, you have... I cannot think of anyone's name right now, but yeah, you get the idea. They have a great defense. They have a great defense, and I'm going to be excited to see this team in their first season, and it's going to be interesting to see if they'll live up to my expectations, or if they'll be, as many others see it, 6th, 5th, maybe 4th in the division. But I have them as high as 3rd, because I think that their defensive game will frustrate a lot of teams in their own division, such as Edmonton, such as Vancouver, Calgary, teams that are more built on offense. And speaking of Edmonton, we have them in 2nd. They acquire Zach Hyman. They signed Darnell Nurse to the big deal contract, which is another one of those I'm just like bashing my head against the ground, thanking the Lord I am not part of Edmonton. But then again, I have to deal with that Seth Jones $9.5 million for 8 years contract. So, which is worse? Debate down in the comments below. Anyway, they got Zach Hyman. They re-signed Mike Smith for 2 years, who was 39 years old. So I'm not sure what their goaltending situation is looking like, because it's Smith, Koskinen, and Stalock. Interesting pair, that's for sure. And I don't really have much else to say on this team. Tyson Barrie on defense is just going to score points. Darnell Nurse, points. Acquired Duncan Keith from Chicago. That should give them a leadership aspect that they didn't really have before. And although he's not nowhere near what he's going to be when he was with Chicago in his Norris winning seasons and his Conn Smythe season, I think he'll be a good presence in their locker room and will be just a good overall leader and be dependable on like a bottom two, or if it needs to be top four pairing on defense. But that leaves us with our first place team in the division, yet again being the Vegas Golden Knights, who, without Marc-Andre Fleury, I still think will be able to flourish. Robin Leonard, I saw him in Chicago, is a very good goaltender, and I think people in Vegas haven't really had the chance to see it. They kind of saw it in the playoffs last year, 2020, but with a little over half a year he was in Chicago, I got to see him play in person. I went to one game in that 2019-20 season against Winnipeg. It was actually the game where Kane got his 1,000th point, so that was an amazing moment to see. And Vegas should still be a good team. They re-signed Martinez. They're trying to get Eichel, but there's really no room to do that at this point, so I think they're out of it. And they still have their core. They got Marchessault, Smith, Pacioretty, Stone. They need a first-line center. Stevenson is not a first-line center. He's played well in his position, but he's more of a second, third-line center guy. And that's the area where Vegas is lacking in that center spot. Alex Tuch should still be producing well. And this team, I think, is just better than all the rest because they have a defense, they have offense, and they have goaltending. Yes, they lose Fleury. They have bringing the Brosset as the backup. Brossois. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Brossois, something like that. And it's going to be hard for Brossois, I'm just going to pronounce him that, to slide into Marc-Andre Fleury's shoes, a third overall all-time in wins being replaced. So if he replaces him even remarkably close to anything that Fleury that has, then I'm pretty sure the Vegas fans will be happy, because Fleury not being there, it's just the way it happened and the way it kind of just took a downturn, and how he was debating retirement was kind of just definitely just not handled well. And I'm grateful he's in Chicago, and I am happy he is in Chicago and decided to keep playing, because I'm really excited to see him play the season. But we'll get to that when we do the Central Division more so. And yeah, these are my predictions, I think, for this year. Vegas, Edmonton, Seattle, going to be your 3 playoff teams in this division. Yes, 3. And I have with the X, and X or Y for Vegas. Are they going to be a division winner and conference leader? I don't know. But I will say, Edmonton and Vegas, I think they'll be close. They'll be closer this year than any other year, I think. Edmonton has improved up front with Zach Hyman. He brings a more defensive presence to the game. His contract, I think, was a good deal. The question is, he's 29. When is he going to break? He plays a game that's going to be hard to sustain for that long. And I'm going to say Vegas for right now. I'm going to say that they're going to get the Y. I say in the Central, they'll still be a team that barely beats them out, as the Central is kind of just a lot better than this division. And Vegas pretty much has this division right for the taking. Edmonton close behind. But after that, I could see Seattle making the playoffs. I could see Vancouver making the playoffs. I could see Calgary making the playoffs. I could see LA making the playoffs. The cut line is if you could add teams I think would make the playoffs, the line would end about here. Well, because this division is going to be a lot more competitive this year. That doesn't mean it'll be the best. That doesn't mean it'll be near the best. It won't be Metropolitan or Central worthy. But it'll definitely be better than the past years, I think. But yeah, tell me your thoughts down below. That's really all I have for you guys today. And I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.